In a sterile hospital hallway, my temper and arrogance led me to slap a nurse. What came next wasn't just justice, but a terrifying reversal of power orchestrated by her father, the chief of surgery, who now held my wife's very life in his hands. The fluorescent lights of the hospital hallway hummed a monotonous tune, a soundtrack to the worst day of my life. My wife, Sarah, was in post-op, a complicated heart valve replacement. The surgeon had said it went as expected, a phrase designed to be reassuring, but which does absolutely nothing to calm the frantic hummingbird of anxiety beating against your ribs. I'd been pacing for 3 hours, surviving on bitter coffee from a vending machine and the stale, recycled air. I'm a vice president at a major tech firm. I'm used to answers, to efficiency, to people jumping when I ask a question. This place, this hospital, was a bureaucratic nightmare where my status meant nothing. I approached the nurse's station for the 4th time. A young black woman was updating a chart, her focus absolute. She had a calm, poised demeanor that for some reason grated on my frayed nerves. I'd asked for an update 20 minutes ago, and she'd given me the same placid smile, and, the doctor will be out when he can, sir. Your wife is stable. Stable wasn't good enough. I needed details. I needed timelines. I needed to be in control. Excuse me, I said, my voice sharper than I intended. She looked up, her eyes patient, but I saw a flicker of weariness in them. I'd seen it in the eyes of junior associates I was about to fire. It was the look of someone bracing for impact. Yes, sir. How can I help you? I need to know my wife's condition. Right now. Not stable. I want to know her blood pressure, her oxygen saturation, and I want to know exactly when Dr. Miller is going to come out here and brief me. My name is Mark Anderson. My wife is Sarah Anderson, room 304. Okay, I said my name with emphasis, a habit from years of it opening doors. Here, it just bounced off the plexiglass barrier. Sir, I understand your concern, she began, her voice infuriatingly calm. But I can't give out specific medical details in the hallway. It's a violation of privacy. Dr. Miller is with another patient who just came out of a critical procedure. As I said, he will be with you as soon as he is able. That's not good enough. The words erupted out of me, louder than I expected. A few people in the waiting area looked over. Good. Let them look. Let them see the incompetence. My wife's company provides the funding for the entire new pediatric wing of this hospital. I demand some basic professional courtesy. The nurse's calm expression finally hardened. She stood up, her posture straightening, and she met my gaze without flinching. Your wife's philanthropic efforts are greatly appreciated, Mr. Anderson, but right now, every patient on this floor is our priority. Your wife is receiving excellent care. You are creating a disturbance. I need you to please sit down and lower your voice. Something inside me snapped. The lack of sleep, the terror for Sarah, the sheer audacity of this woman, this nurse, telling me, what to do. It all coalesced into a single, blinding flash of rage. Who did she think she was? She was just a cog in this machine, a nobody, and she was stonewalling me. Don't you dare speak to me like that, I snarled, stepping closer to the counter, invading her space. My hand was clenched into a fist at my side. She didn't back down. She held her ground, her chin held high. Sir, if you don't step back, I will have to call security. That was it. The final provocation. My control, already hanging by a thread, evaporated. In one fluid, thoughtless motion, my hand came up. The sound of my palm connecting with her cheek was like a gunshot in the silent hallway. It was sharp, ugly, and final. Gasps echoed around us. The nurse stumbled back a step, her hand flying to her face. A bright red handprint was already blooming on her dark skin. Her eyes, wide with shock, stared at me. For a moment, a split second, I felt a surge of satisfaction. I had finally gotten a reaction. I had asserted myself. The shock on her face quickly morphed into something else. Not tears, not fear. It was a cold, quiet fury. The silence in the hallway was absolute, broken only by the distant, rhythmic beeping of a machine. Before security could even be called, a side door I hadn't even noticed before swung open. A tall, imposing man in blue scrubs and a white coat stepped out, his expression grim. He had salt and pepper hair and a face that commanded respect. His eyes scanned the scene me, standing there with my chest puffed out, and the nurse still holding her cheek, her dignity fractured but not broken. The name tag on his coat read, Dr. Evans, Chief of Surgery. Dr. Evans looked at me, not with anger, but with a kind of profound, chilling disappointment. He then looked at the nurse, and his expression softened for a fraction of a second. He turned his gaze back to me, and his voice was low, but it carried the weight of an earthquake. "Mr. Anderson," he said, his tone perfectly level, "you've been demanding to speak with the head of cardiothoracic surgery about your wife's complex post-operative care, correct?" I managed a tight nod, my bravado suddenly feeling like a cheap suit in the rain. "Well," Dr. Evans said, gesturing with a calm, deliberate hand toward the woman I had just slapped, "you probably should have started by asking her father." The words hung in the air, thick and heavy like surgical anesthetic. Her father. My mind, which moments before had been a raging inferno, was suddenly ice cold. It was as if I'd been running full tilt in the dark and had just smashed face first into a concrete wall. I replayed the last 5 minutes in horrifying slow motion. My condescending tone, my bellowing demands, the ugly crack of my hand against her skin. And I had done it all in front of her father. Not just any father. The chief of surgery. The man whose skill and steady hands were the only reason my wife had a chance. The world narrowed to the space between the three of us. The hum of the lights seemed to grow louder, mocking the new, deafening silence inside my head. Dr. Evans didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. His calm was more terrifying than any shouting match could ever be. He took a step forward, placing himself slightly in front of his daughter, a subtle, protective gesture that made my stomach clench. He looked at me, and his eyes, the same intelligent, steady eyes as his daughter's, held a mixture of contempt and clinical assessment, as if he were diagnosing a particularly virulent disease. "Dad, I'm fine," the nurse, his daughter said, her voice a little shaky but firm. She took her hand away from her cheek, revealing the angry red mark I had left. Seeing it there, under the sterile hospital lights, on the face of this man's child, sent a wave of nausea through me. He was upset about his wife, she added, an incredible act of professional grace that felt like another slap, this one aimed at my character. "Maya, please go take a break." "Let Nurse Ramirez cover the desk," Dr. Evans said, his gaze never leaving mine. He was dismissing her not because she couldn't handle it, but because he was about to handle me. She gave a slight nod and walked away, her back straight, her dignity intact. I watched her go, the shame burning a hole in my gut. Just then, 2 uniformed security guards rounded the corner, their radios crackling. They'd obviously been called before Dr. Evans had appeared. Their eyes flicked from the lingering red mark on Maya's cheek to me. I felt like a cornered animal. My entire life was built on reputation, on the perception of power and control. In 30 seconds, I had incinerated it all. "Dr. Evans, is there a problem here?" the lead guard asked, his hand resting near his belt. I expected Dr. Evans to have me thrown out. I deserved it. I braced myself for the humiliation of being frog-marched out of the hospital in front of everyone. But he just held up a hand. "The situation is under control, gentlemen. Thank you for the prompt response." He then turned his full attention back to me. "Mr. Anderson, my office, now." It wasn't a request. The walk down the hall behind him was the longest of my life. The whispers from the waiting area followed me like a cloud of wasps. I felt the burn of a dozen pairs of eyes. He led me into a large, quiet office, the walls lined with medical journals and framed diplomas. He closed the door behind us, the click of the latch sounding like a cell door locking. He didn't offer me a seat. He simply walked around his large mahogany desk and looked at me, letting the silence stretch until it was a physical weight, pressing down on me. "My daughter," he began, his voice a low, dangerous rumble, "graduated top of her class from Johns Hopkins. She could have gone anywhere, taken any high-paying private nursing job she wanted. She chose to work here, in the cardiothoracic ICU, because she is more dedicated to saving lives than most of the surgeons I know. She works double shifts, she calms terrified families, she holds the hands of dying patients, and she does it all with a grace you couldn't possibly comprehend. and you put your hand on her. I opened my mouth to apologize, to explain, but he cut me off. Don't you dare say a word. You had your chance to behave like a civilized human being out there, and you failed. He picked up a file from his desk. It had Sarah's name on it. My heart leaped into my throat. Now about your wife, he said, and I held my breath. The surgery was a success. The new valve is performing perfectly. Her vitals are strong. I was on my way out to tell you the good news. Relief so potent it almost buckled my knees, washed over me. Oh, thank God, I breathed. Thank you, doctor, I'm not finished, he said, his eyes like chips of granite. The next 48 hours are the most critical. Her recovery is dependent on keeping her blood pressure down and her environment completely stress-free. Any shock or agitation could cause a dangerous arrhythmia. He paused, letting the words sink in. Which brings me back to you. You are, without a doubt, the single greatest source of stress in this building right now. He looked at me, a predator sizing up its prey. Therefore, you have become a direct threat to your own wife's recovery. You will not be allowed to see her. You are being removed from her approved visitor list, effective immediately. What? No, you can't do that, I protested, the panic returning full force. She's my wife. She'll be asking for me. She'll be sedated for the next 12 hours, he said dismissively, picking up his phone. And when she wakes up, my team, including my daughter, will give her the best care in the world. Care that will not be interrupted by your temper tantrums. He started to dial. Security will escort you from the premises. Any updates will be provided to the emergency contact number you left on file. My world was imploding. Being barred from seeing Sarah was a punishment I couldn't bear. Please, I begged, my voice cracking, all my carefully constructed authority gone. Please, doctor, don't do this. I'll do anything. Dr. Evans stopped dialing. He looked at me for a long, cold moment, considering. A flicker of something I couldn't read crossed his face. He slowly put the phone down. Anything? He asked, his voice soft, which was somehow more menacing than his anger. It's funny you should say that. Because as it happens, there is one thing I need, something only a man in your position can provide. A sliver of hope, desperate and pathetic, cut through my panic. I'd deal with anything, any penance, if it meant I could see Sarah. Yes, anything, I repeated, my voice hoarse. My company. We can make a donation, a substantial one, to your daughter's department, to any fund you want. I was falling back on my old ways, trying to solve a problem of the soul with a checkbook. Dr. Evans let out a short, mirthless laugh. It wasn't a sound of amusement. It was the sound of a man who had seen the absolute worst of people and was no longer surprised. You still don't get it, do you? You think money fixes this? You think you can buy your way out of the disrespect you showed my child? Out of the threat you posed to my patient? He leaned forward, his hands flat on the polished desk. I don't want your money, Mr. Anderson. Your money is tainted by the arrogance that fueled your actions today. He straightened up and walked to the window, looking out over the city lights that were beginning to twinkle against the darkening sky. About 6 months ago, he began, his voice now distant, reflective. This hospital board approved a merger, a corporate buyout. The acquiring firm is a massive tech conglomerate called Omnicorp. They've been making promises about streamlining and optimizing patient care pathways, which is all just corporate jargon for cutting staff, reducing benefits, and prioritizing profit over people. My entire team, the nurses like Maya who work themselves to the bone, they're all terrified of losing their jobs or seeing their patient loads doubled. The final vote to approve the fine print details is next week. The board is split, but they're leaning towards approving it. They're being heavily influenced by one of Omnicorp's most persuasive executives, a real shark. He turned back from the window and stared directly at me. The pieces clicked into place with an audible, sickening snap. Omnicorp was my company. I was that executive. I was the shark. I had been championing this merger for a year, seeing it as a major career victory, a legacy project. I'd personally drafted the proposals that outlined the staffing re-evaluations he was talking about. I started to say, the words catching in my throat. My career, my reputation, the very foundation of my professional life was on a collision course with my personal one. You said anything. Dr. Evans reminded me, his voice like steel. You want to see your wife. You want to hold her hand when she wakes up. Then you will kill this merger. You will go to that board meeting next week, and you will personally dismantle the very proposal you built. You will find a reason, a market downturn, a regulatory conflict, I don't care what, and you will make it go away. Permanently. The demand was staggering. It was professional suicide. My bosses would crucify me. But then I pictured Sarah, lying alone in that ICU room. I pictured Maya's face, the shock and hurt in her eyes. I saw the quiet, unyielding integrity of her father, a man who fought for his people as fiercely as he fought for his patients. What was a title? What was a corner office compared to that? Compared to the man I wanted to be, the man Sarah thought she had married? I looked at Dr. Evans, the chief of surgery, the father, and for the first time I didn't see an obstacle. I saw a man who had just handed me a lifeline, a chance to claw back a piece of my own humanity. Okay, I said, the word feeling both like a surrender and a victory. Okay, I'll do it. He studied my face, searching for any sign of deceit. Finally, he gave a slow, deliberate nod. He picked up the phone on his desk and dialed a 3-digit extension. This is Dr. Evans. Please reinstate visitor privileges for Sarah Anderson in room 304. Her husband will be coming up. He hung up without another word. He didn't offer a handshake. He just gestured toward the door. Go see your wife, Mr. Anderson. As I walked out of his office, the hallway felt different. The stares of the people in the waiting area hadn't changed, but my perception of them had. They weren't judging me anymore. They were a reflection of the man I had been just an hour ago. When I reached the nurse's station, Maya was back. Her cheek was still red. We looked at each other for a long moment. There were no words that could fix what I had done, but I had to try. I am so profoundly sorry, I said, my voice quiet, stripped of all its former bluster. She didn't smile, but the hardness in her eyes softened. She simply nodded once, an acknowledgement of the apology and perhaps the monumental price I was about to pay for it. It was more forgiveness than I deserved. I walked to room 304 and pushed the door open gently. There was Sarah, sleeping peacefully amidst the quiet beeps and whirs of the machines that were keeping her alive. I pulled a chair to her bedside, took her warm hand in mine, and for the first time all day, the frantic hummingbird in my chest was still. I had a long, difficult week ahead of me. I was about to torpedo my career. But as I sat there, holding my wife's hand, I realized I hadn't lost a thing. I was just starting to pay the price to get my own soul back.